Behind the glitz and elegance of the heyday of Hollywood, Barbara Stanwyck had a turbulent and painful personal life. Stanwyck was well known for her ferocious independence on screen, but her real life was just as enjoyable, with many hardships that she concealed from the public. One such instance was an affair that completely upended her marriage. How did this terrible betrayal ultimately impact her relationship with the man she loved, and what caused it? Come along as we reveal the startling circumstances of Barbara Stanwyck's tragic affair and how it would permanently alter her life. The early life of Barbara Stanwyck. Barbara Stanwyck was born Ruby Catherine Stevens on July 16, 1907, in Brooklyn, New York. Her early years were difficult and filled with grief. Stanwyck was raised by her older sister when her father abandoned her and her mother died when she was just 4 years old. Adversity was nothing new to her, having grown up in a rough area. She developed resilience and determination due to her difficult upbringing, traits she later applied to her acting profession. She worked in several occupations during her adolescence before joining a vaudeville chorus line. Many were drawn to her intense determination and stunning beauty. But what made her stand out was her natural ability to enthrall an audience. Years of personal adversity gave Stanwyck the unadulterated resolve that would later define her influential, self-reliant roles on the big screen. Her break into Hollywood. When a talent scout saw Barbara Stanwyck performing on Broadway in 1927, it was her big break into Hollywood. Warner Brothers signed her right away, and she was given small parts there, which helped her establish her reputation in the business. She demonstrated versatility in her early work, but her first taste of a significant motion picture role came in The Noose in 1928. Stanwyck's performances were captivating, and it was evident that she had a natural talent for being on TV. But she didn't win her spot in Hollywood until 1937, when she starred in Stella Dallas. She was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actress for the portrayal, which portrayed a working-class lady who gave up everything for her daughter's future. It was a turning point in her career that made her one of the most gifted actors of her generation and laid the groundwork for her subsequent numerous triumphs. Rise to stardom in the 1930s. Barbara Stanwyck was a true Hollywood icon by the early 1930s, not a budding star. She soon became one of the highest-paid actors in the business, thanks to her innate beauty and unwavering commitment to her work. She became the quintessential femme fatale of the noir cinema genre, for which she was most well known. Stanwyck demonstrated her remarkable versatility in movies such as Double Indemnity in 1944 and The Lady Eve in 1941, moving fluidly between strong female characters and crafty, morally gray ones. She had numerous nominations over her career and was a frequent attendee at the Academy Awards and her film performances. She became a darling of critics and fans due to her extraordinary talent and capacity to give nuance to even the most complicated roles, establishing her as one of Hollywood's most influential people. Her marriage to Robert Taylor. Barbara Stanwyck married Robert Taylor in 1939. Taylor was a hottie who was as popular with Hollywood fans as she was. Although their marriage appeared to be the ideal combination of two influential people, it was everything but idyllic behind closed doors. Due to his strong work commitment, Taylor frequently put his job before their marriage, which caused friction. However, Stanwyck was fiercely independent and motivated by her own goals, which caused tension between them. Despite their disagreements, they maintained a public persona as a loving couple, and their on-screen connection was evident. However, miscommunications and infidelity plagued their private life. Their marital problems grew more severe as their careers took off, ultimately resulting in their split. Their divorce resulted from their inability to maintain a long-lasting relationship due to Taylor's steadfast adherence to his belief and Stanwyck's focused emphasis on her career. The affair that shattered their marriage. Both Barbara Stanwyck and Robert Taylor's life underwent significant change as a result of the affair that finally ended their marriage. Although the affair's specifics are still unclear, it's generally accepted that Stanwyck grew close to another actor while working on a project together. The affair upset Robert Taylor, who was a devout man, and the emotional toll it took established an irreversible gap between them. Even though there were many rumors and scandals in Hollywood, this specific affair made their already tricky marriage even more complicated. Their marriage was in ruins due to Taylor's strong sentiments of betrayal and the demands of their celebrity status. Despite her reputation for being strong in public, Stanwyck struggled with her inner anguish after learning that her personal and professional lives were at odds. In 1951, the couple's once promising relationship ended, and Stanwyck's life entered an emotional chapter with their ultimate divorce. Stanwyck's first marriage and divorce. Actor Frank Fay and Barbara Stanwyck were married in 1928 before Robert Taylor. Their marriage was troubled from the beginning because of Fay's volatile temper and alcoholism, which frequently caused friction between them. While Stanwyck's reputation kept growing, Fay, notorious for having a volatile nature, found it difficult to keep his career steady. The disparity in their careers further strained their already shaky marriage. Despite the many disputes and public controversies that characterized their union, Stanwyck tried to keep things together for the benefit of her profession. They divorced in 1935 because their marriage was permanently changed. Later, feeling constrained by the demands of her job and the psychological effects of cohabitating with an unstable spouse, Stanwyck called the marriage a mistake. Her career flourished despite this challenging period, and her fortitude in pursuing her goals signaled the start of her ascent to become one of Hollywood's most recognizable personalities. Her bond with Columbia Pictures. One of Barbara Stanwyck's most successful and long-lasting collaborations was with Columbia Pictures. Stanwyck became one of the studio's biggest stars after signing on in the early 1940s. She was given a variety of roles by Columbia, which enabled her to showcase her cross-genre ability. She demonstrated her fantastic range as a humorous and serious performer in movies like Ball of Fire in 1941 and Meet John Doe, also in 1941. She was a darling among Columbia's executives due to her professionalism and devotion to her work, and she stood out from many of her peers by accepting challenging parts. Stanwyck maintained a problematic balance in her personal life despite her achievements at Columbia. Although she frequently suffered from the stress of her business and the turmoil of her marriages, her time at Columbia was pivotal in her lengthy and prosperous Hollywood career. Her relationships after Robert Taylor. Barbara Stanwyck had several romances after her divorce from Robert Taylor, but none ended in remarriage. Her close friendship with actor and director William Wellman was one noteworthy relationship. Although this connection had no romance, Stanwyck could get through difficult emotional times with Wellman's guidance. She worked with Wellman on several projects, including Bad Little Angel in 1939, which Wellman directed. Despite the difficulties in her personal life, Stanwyck's continued success in Hollywood after her divorce demonstrated her tenacity. In the 1950s, she also had a brief but close relationship with actor Robert Wagner. Stanwyck, renowned for her professional concentration, remained a revered figure in the industry despite her troubles. Even if they didn't lead to long-term personal engagements, her connections with influential Hollywood people gave her emotional support. Stanwyck's regrets about her marriage. In subsequent interviews, Barbara Stanwyck expressed her remorse about her marriage to Robert Taylor. She acknowledged that the demands of their jobs and disparate personalities produced an unpleasant dynamic, even if they were genuinely in love. She admitted that Taylor's more subdued and devout personality frequently clashed with her desire. Stanwyck stated in one interview that she believed they could have had a better chance if they'd put more effort into resolving their issues. But her introspection was more than self-pity. It also demonstrated her self-awareness. Stanwyck's candor of her marital flaws shows the depth of her character. Although she had a reputation for being harsh on the outside, her subsequent weakness revealed the depth of her personality, making her one of the most complicated celebrities in Hollywood history. Her complex character. A classic example of the femme fatale is Barbara Stanwyck's performance as the vicious and alluring Phyllis Dietrichson in Double Indemnity in 1944. It became one of the most iconic representations of the femme fatale in noir cinema. Stanwyck's ability to give her characters nuance and sympathy distinguished her from other actresses in comparable roles. Phyllis was not a one-dimensional antagonist. Her reasons were tragic and multifaceted due to her emotional weakness. Stanwyck's portrayals in noir movies such as Sorry, Wrong Number in 1948 and The Lady Eve in 1941 also showed that she was a manipulative and compassionate woman. She successfully questioned how women are typically portrayed in movies by presenting them as complex and morally ambiguous. Her femme fatale portrayals continue to serve as a model for contemporary actresses and contributed to the development of the noir cinema genre. Her unwavering dedication to her craft. Barbara Stanwyck was renowned for her rigorous acting approach and famous work ethic. Despite her hardships, Stanwyck remained steadfast in her commitment to her performances. She studied her characters extensively and pushed herself to reach new emotional heights because she took her craft seriously. Her portrayal of a lady facing a moral conundrum in Meet John Doe in 1941 demonstrated this commitment. Because of her thorough preparation, Stanwyck was a favorite among filmmakers who appreciated her versatility. She was also renowned for performing most of her stunts while maintaining her dedication to realism. Stanwyck stands apart from her contemporaries due to her ability to inhabit her characters, whether in comedy or dramatic situations. She gained a great deal of respect in the entertainment world for her discipline and commitment to her profession, which helped to create her enduring legacy. Stanwyck's later years. Barbara Stanwyck's success in switching from film to television in the 1950s solidified her place in the entertainment business. She played Victoria Barkley, a strong and kind matriarch, in the hit television series The Big Valley from 1965 to 1969. Her performance in this part received a lot of applause, demonstrating that even after years in the business, she can still enthrall audiences. Although switching to television was difficult, Stanwyck rose to the occasion and demonstrated flexibility and adaptability. She also made cameos on several television programs, showing that her skill was not limited to movies. Stanwyck remained a sought-after celebrity, despite switching to television when many older women had difficulty landing significant roles. Her work on television further cemented her reputation as an actress with lasting success in Hollywood. The tragic death of Stanwyck's only son. Peter, Barbara Stanwyck's only son, died tragically in 1980, leaving a lasting influence on her life. Stanwyck was shocked by Peter's unexpected death from a heart attack. She retired from public life to grieve the loss, which was very personal. She had a robust relationship with Peter, and his passing devastated her. Stanwyck's health deteriorated in the ensuing years, and she found it difficult to move on from the loss. Her anguish clouded her remaining years, even though she continued to gain recognition for her work, including her 1986 entry into the Television Hall of Fame. Stanwyck's vulnerability was brought to light by the tragedy, which revealed a side of her that the world rarely saw. Her career began to come to an end after the death of her son, and she became more withdrawn and prioritized her personal life above her work life. Barbara Stanwyck's influence on modern actresses. There's no denying Barbara Stanwyck's influence on contemporary actresses. At a time when women were frequently restricted to stereotyped roles, she broke down boundaries. Stanwyck's portrayal of strong yet vulnerable women established a new benchmark for Hollywood actors. Many performers have studied the depth and intricacy of her performances in Ball of Fire and Double Indemnity. Stanwyck had been credited as a significant influence by actresses such as Jessica Chastain and Cate Blanchett, especially for her unafraid handling of complicated roles. Stanwyck's influence is evident in how contemporary actresses depict complex, ethically gray female characters. Her performances demonstrated that women in movies can be just as complicated and captivating as their male counterparts, inspiring a generation of actors to take on more demanding and dynamic roles. The way women are portrayed in cinema today is still influenced by Stanwyck. Her relationship with Columbia studio head Harry Cohn. A key component of Barbara Stanwyck's career was her working connection with Harry Cohn, the head of Columbia Pictures. Early on, Cohn recognized Stanwyck's extraordinary talent and was crucial in landing several assignments. Rumors of their involvement were common despite their apparent work bond. Despite their denials, their relationship remained complex, particularly given Stanwyck's reputation for being fiercely independent. However, Cohn had a reputation for being domineering, which occasionally caused conflict. However, their cooperation in the 1930s and 1940s was essential to Stanwyck's professional development. Her reputation was enhanced, and she became one of Hollywood's most prominent actresses thanks to movies like Lady of Burlesque and Ball of Fire. Their working partnership lasted for many years, despite sporadic power battles. Cohn's strategic choices helped Stanwyck's popularity, guaranteeing her position in Hollywood history. Barbara Stanwyck's outspoken nature. One of the few actresses who never hesitated to voice her firm ideas, whether on set or in interviews, was Barbara Stanwyck, well known for her direct and unrepentant manner. When she thought the production was beneath her, or if she wasn't being treated fairly, she was known for fighting with directors and co-stars. Although many people appreciated her candor, her relentless pursuit of perfection could occasionally cause conflict on set, since it may be mistaken for challenging conduct. Outside of her work life, she was straightforward and unafraid to express her displeasure with the jobs presented to her. At the time, Hollywood starlets were expected to be modest and amiable, and this outspokenness frequently ran counter to those expectations. Despite the difficulties, Stanwyck's defiance of these expectations made her a trailblazer in a men-dominated field. Barbara Stanwyck's reputation as a workaholic. Despite her legendary dedication to her work, Barbara Stanwyck frequently paid a personal price for it. Regarded as a workaholic, Stanwyck gave her everything to every role, leaving little time for other pursuits. Her accomplishments and personal difficulties were both influenced by her unwavering focus on her work. Stanwyck acknowledged that her commitment to acting overshadowed her happiness, which caused pressure in her marriages, especially her union with Robert Taylor. Because of this, even though she was one of the most prominent actresses in Hollywood, she frequently felt alone and alienated. Her profession was the source of her greatest regrets and her constant friend. Although Stanwyck's perfectionism helped her rise to the top of Hollywood, it also caused her to become emotionally distant and yearn for a more balanced existence. Barbara Stanwyck's impact on gender roles in Hollywood. The way women were portrayed on screen was changed mainly by Barbara Stanwyck's career. Stanwyck's characters were complex, autonomous, and strong-willed during a period when women were frequently restricted to romantic or supporting parts. At the time, Hollywood hardly ever exhibited women with ambition, intelligence, and agency, but films like Ball of Fire and Meet John Doe did. Future generations of actresses were able to experiment with a variety of roles because of Stanwyck's ability to portray complicated female characters. Stereotypical representations of women as merely romantic partners or supporting characters were challenged by her portrayal of strong, vulnerable, and brave women who were not afraid to defy expectations. Being a forerunner, Stanwyck's influence may have observed in the roles that women now portray, where complex, powerful female characters are more common than ever. She was a trailblazer in dismantling the constraints of gender norms in film. Her role in the film noir genre. There's no denying that Barbara Stanwyck's contribution to the definition of the noir cinema genre. She became a key figure in noir filmmaking because she represented morally complicated women in movies like Sorry, Wrong Number, and Double Indemnity. Stanwyck was frequently portrayed as the femme fatale, a character type characterized by their capacity for manipulation and moral ambiguity. But Stanwyck's empathy and depth distinguished her from other actresses in comparable parts. She gave her characters depth, giving them multiple dimensions and relatability, rather than just portraying a lousy lady. Her performances had an emotional weight that became characteristic of her noir roles as audiences witnessed her characters struggle with love, betrayal, and guilt. Actors and filmmakers are still influenced by Stanwyck's nuanced depictions in this genre, demonstrating her unmatched capacity to give even the most ethically dubious characters nuance and reality. The struggles of being a female star in Hollywood. In addition to her achievements, Barbara Stanwyck's career was shaped by the difficulties she encountered as a woman in a field that men controlled. Despite being one of her era's most gifted and diligent actresses, she frequently had to compete for parts just as important and complex as those given to her male peers. Women were often restricted to conventional roles that prioritized beauty over substance at a period when the majority of Hollywood studio chiefs were men. Stanwyck's determination to challenge these restrictions resulted in a career full of strong, complex characters who went against the norm for women. Despite the challenges of typecasting and prejudice, she managed to forge a varied and influential career. She was a trailblazer for women in Hollywood and beyond because of her willingness to question the industry's conventions, sometimes at the sacrifice of her relationships. Stanwyck's legacy in film and television. The impact of Barbara Stanwyck is still felt today, and her legacy is still a mainstay of television and movies. She not only raised the bar for Hollywood performances during her storied career, but she also influenced television. Her ability to switch between cinema and television was demonstrated in the 1960s when she played the matriarch Victoria Barkley in The Big Valley. Stanwyck's representation of independent women in both media created opportunities for actors from various genres. Her innovative energy paved the way for later celebrities like Glenn Close and Jessica Lange. She stands out for her ability to remain relevant across several decades, demonstrating that her extraordinary talent was unaffected by the shifting trends in Hollywood. Many people consider Stanwyck a pioneer for strong female characters on screen, and her influence may still be seen in contemporary entertainment even after she died in 1990. Barbara Stanwyck and her hidden vulnerabilities. Barbara Stanwyck had emotional difficulties of her own despite her stern demeanor. Stanwyck was emotionally damaged by her upbringing in poverty following the loss of her mother, and she frequently concealed her weaknesses behind her ferocious independence and on-screen self-assurance. Stanwyck, who often withdrew from the outside world to protect herself, yearned for love and stability in her personal life, but her characters were strong and resilient. She had a reputation for being cautious and avoiding intimate connections. She struggled with feelings of loneliness and self-doubt, particularly in her latter years, as a result of her emotional isolation, which was made worse by her difficult marriages. Notwithstanding these difficulties, she rose to prominence as one of the most influential actresses of her day, transforming her hidden weaknesses into some of her most moving and nuanced parts, and displaying a depth that few other actresses of the era could match. The tragic death of Robert Taylor. Despite their long-standing divorce, Barbara Stanwyck was deeply affected by Robert Taylor's death in 1969. Even though their marriage had been tainted by strife, Stanwyck's heart was forever changed. Stanwyck was deeply affected by Taylor's condition, which ultimately resulted in his premature death from cancer. Despite the upheaval in their relationship, she had frequently talked about the true love they previously had. Taylor's death served as a reminder of what could have happened if things had gone differently. Stanwyck struggled with their connection's unresolved feelings and withdrew into solitude after his death. For Stanwyck, Taylor's death signaled the end of a period full of highs and lows in his personal and professional life. After their divorce, Stanwyck never got married again, and her friendship with Taylor remained one of the most important ones in her life. Barbara Stanwyck's unfinished business in Hollywood. A sense of unresolved business characterized Barbara Stanwyck's career despite her extraordinary accomplishments. Despite being nominated multiple times for performances regarded as masterpieces, she never received an Academy Award for acting, which may be one of her biggest disappointments. Although she received an honorary Oscar in 1981, she could not secure the competitive victory she had long desired. She suffered from this lack of recognition, believing that she had been overlooked for jobs that were more deserving of notice. However, her contributions to the film industry greatly exceeded any one honor. Stanwyck's tragic and noir film roles helped define a period, and her impact on Hollywood is still felt today. Her legacy is ingrained in American film history, even though she was never able to win the coveted Oscar. Actors and filmmakers continue to study and admire her characters and performances. Her relationship with her fans. There was mutual respect and appreciation between Barbara Stanwyck and her followers. Stanwyck, who frequently took the time to recognize and engage with her audience, was renowned for her humility and gratitude toward them, unlike many other celebrities of her era. She never took her notoriety for granted since she understood her job as a public figure. Even though Stanwyck kept her personal life secret, she was kind to her admirers, signing autographs and having open discussions when the chance presented itself. Her devoted following admired her acting prowess, professionalism, and sincerity. The public adored her because they perceived her as approachable and grounded. Mutual respect was the foundation of Stanwyck's relationship with her fans, who revered her for her unrelenting work ethic. In return, Stanwyck valued their support throughout her career, which helped her feel connected to the world outside the movie theater. The end of an era. During her last years, Barbara Stanwyck retreated from the spotlight in search of solitude and tranquility. Stanwyck became more withdrawn after the death of her only son in 1980. She was profoundly impacted by this personal tragedy and started prioritizing her health and well-being over her work. She led a quiet, solitary life and occasionally appeared publicly, usually during gatherings celebrating her legacy. Stanwyck's last years were characterized by introspection as she reflected on a career that lasted more than 50 years and had a lasting impression on Hollywood. She died of heart failure in January 1990 when she was 82 years old. An era in the history of film ended with her passing. However, Barbara Stanwyck's legacy endured after her passing, and her movies continue to serve as a standard for aspiring performers and directors who want to convey the unadulterated passion and genuineness she gave to each part. Barbara Stanwyck, the lasting impact. Hollywood has not forgotten Barbara Stanwyck. Her influence is still felt in contemporary culture. She was one of the most versatile actresses of her era, portraying everything from the firm mother characters in television to the complicated, ethically gray characters in noir films. Her work demonstrated a depth of character that was uncommon at the time in both professions. For many performers who came after her, she served as an inspiration because of her ability to portray tenacity, strength, and vulnerability in equal measure. Today's actors are inspired by Stanwyck's dedication to authenticity and her refusal to be limited by typecasting, and her legacy lives on in their performances. She established herself as one of Hollywood's best and most enduring stars by setting an unrivaled standard for excellence in cinema and television. The success of an actress who didn't hesitate to forge her path is demonstrated by Barbara Stanwyck's career. If you've watched the video till here, that means you've enjoyed the video. Subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notifications bell icon